Hi guys, it's Billy. You may not recognize me. I got my hair done. Video isn't about your hair. Okay, during quarantine, I got the chance to watch all 3 seasons of Stranger Things back to back. And season 1 and season 2 were really good. Season 3 wasn't though. And not a lot of people are talking about it. I saw 1 or 2 videos that were like, season 3 was really bad. And I was like, yeah, I know. But they didn't really get into it too much. They were like, it was still good. And I'm like, I would go so far as to call season 3 of Stranger Things the worst season ever. Before I get started into like ripping up this season, I just wanted to say a few things that I actually liked about this season, because I still care about Stranger Things, of course. I still care about Stranger Things. I'm wearing its merch right now. It's like, it feels like this whole season had different writers, and it diverged so much from the previous 2 seasons that I was like, why? Yeah, I'm going to talk about some other things that I liked first. I loved season 1 of Stranger Things. It was just basically perfect. There were 1 or 2 things that are pretty nitpicky that I didn't like, but they're nitpicky, so it doesn't matter. Season 2 was also pretty good. It felt like all of the plots were tight, like they were supposed to be, and they all interwove nicely, and it was really good. And also season 2 brought my favorite character. I love Stinky Garbage Man. It's my favorite. And then season 3 came along, and there are about 3 things that I can say that I liked about season 3 of Stranger Things. Cinematography, the lighting especially, was really, really good this season. Having them all as a backdrop provided tons of excuses to light things with dark red and dark blue and these purple tones, and it was just really pretty to look at. Super huge like vaporwave aesthetic that the internet loves. I love because it's very pretty. The second thing that I liked about season 3 was Robin. I love Robin. She is amazing and sweet and sassy. I would die for her. I hope season 4 has more Robin, because... Third thing that I like about the season, I really liked how close Max and Elle got, even though I'll be complaining about half of it later. Darn it. So yeah, that's all the good things that I liked about season 3. Everything else I'm gonna complain about. Here we go. So to make this more concise and try not to talk for 2.5 hours, emphasis on try, I have created a Jenny Nicholson approved, internet friendly numbered list. This is how many numbers I have. Let's get started, shall we? Number 1, the Russian subplot was really dumb. So I get that in a show like Stranger Things you're going to have like otherworldly type things, but for some reason I can believe that a secret base is doing experiments on kids and opening portals to monster worlds, but having Russians build an underground secret lair underneath a highly populated American mall, it just shattered my suspension of disbelief as soon as I realized they were the big baddies of this season. I was like, oh, they're doing this. It was literally never mentioned except for a passing joke, and it creates a ton of problems just all everywhere. First of all, the fact that it's even there in the first place. I feel like people in a small town know everybody, because I am from a small town and I knew basically everybody. And if a giant mall with a huge underground lair was built in my town, I feel like people would have known about it. There's got to be tons of contractors that worked on it. First off, this may be a little nitpicky, but I just need to rant for a second. There's tons of contractors. Someone would have let slip that they built a giant underground lair. Second off, it's impractical for them to even be there. I get that they're Russian spies and like they're opening up a portal and everything, but at the same time the energy from trying to open the portal up would disrupt magnets, so I'm assuming they would disrupt other things, and no one noticed this? Like if Joyce noticed it, which I'm going to complain about that later, we're going to put a pin up in there later. If it knocks the magnets off of the fridge, it has to do other things, and no one's noticed it? And I know there's the whole thing about the mayor later. I don't care. I'll talk about that later. The other pen. we'll talk about it later. It's very weird, and I get it, the 80s were like the Cold War era and everything, but there's a difference between like maybe there's Russian spies and there's literally a Russian spy here, and it was really dumb. Also, why would they try to open up a portal to a underworld? Like, what do they think they're gonna do with that? So the entire Russian subplot was dumb. It was dumb that literal teenagers were able to decrypt a code from Russians in literally like the span of 8 hours, and no American official would have heard or recognized anything like that. It just feels weird and dumb, and I hated it. And I'm not trying to be like, oh no, the teenagers are dumb. I'm saying that an American soldier or someone, because this is a small town in America, right? There's bound to be people from the military there, because that's like where the military gets most of their recruits, I would think. So I feel like at least one American person would have realized that they were Russians, especially if Dustin could pick it up with his like home-built radio tower thing. No one else was able to pick it up? Okay, sure, it was dumb. So that's all I have to say about the Russian subplot, which was unfortunately like a third of the plot in this show. So a third of the show I already hated from the get-go. Not a great look. But I'm done talking about the Russian subplot, other than the fact that it's going to come up in other like pins that I've mentioned. So number 2, Hopper and Joyce's weird relationship and Hopper's subsequent flanderization. So in previous seasons, Hopper has only used violence as like a last resort, and also he seems like the type of person that would understand when someone's going through emotional turmoil, because he himself has gone through emotional turmoil. He lost his daughter to a form of cancer, and his wife divorced him. Yeah, it seems like he would understand. So it feels really weird and gross, and it made me completely not care about Hopper as a character when he literally told Joyce to get over Bob's death. I was like, this is gross and I hate this, and what did you do to this character? This season Hopper is so entitled, and it's like man baby entitled, and it's gross and I hate it so much. I get that the Duffers draw a lot from 80s movies, but a lot of those 80s movies that have these type of tropes and these type of characters are now being criticized for having these types of tropes and characters because it's extremely entitled and nobody likes it. If you're making it in modern day, I feel like you could draw certain aspects from 80s movies, you know, like the 80s aesthetic and stuff like that, but also try to leave out some of the more problematic things that you can, such as male entitlement in the form of Hopper, because the way that he treats not only Joyce but like everybody, the way he treats Elle this season is really gross and weird, because the season before he tried to reason with her. Granted, they did get into like screaming matches, but this time he just feels like overbearing, and it's like ownership of her, and I'm like, ew, gross. And I get it, he's like trying to protect her, but that's also what made her run away the previous season, was that he was overprotective. So maybe he should learn from things like that and not do that again. There's another video that I watched that pointed all of this out and made me realize just how bad it was. A link up here, you can go and watch it after this video, but he explains the whole like entitled male 80s trope and how much I hate it, and yeah, why is it in here. And I understand that certain things from the 80s are going to be in a show that's about the 80s, you know, like homophobia. Obviously from season 2 we got a little taste of that. Make me sad inside. Obviously there's going to be things from the 80s, but if you can avoid certain things like entitled dudes, especially because this character never was entitled before, I feel like you should. I don't know who wrote for Hopper this season, but yikes. I think that's it for Hopper. I understand that Joyce has like gone through a lot of trauma the past 2 seasons. Her son was lost and then presumed to be dead, and then it looked like he was really dead, and then finally brought out of this like portal to this upside down place in which she went to save him. almost lost him again and then had him possessed the next season. Joyce has been through some stuff. However, the magnets seem a little of a stretch. It feels like a really dumb thing for her to focus on when, you know, they have the setup for facing the traumas of the previous season. I know her son definitely has PTSD. She should have PTSD. Like, this whole group should have PTSD from everything that they've seen. They fought Demogorgons. They're like 12. You're telling me that they're just fine with this? No. So it feels really weird that we never get any like emotional trying to recoup from the previous seasons in this season, especially because it could have obviously taken up some of these extra dumb plots. Like, instead of the why are my magnets falling off my fridge, it could be I would like to feel like a normal person again, and also my boyfriend died right in front of me last season, so coping with that. I don't know why they didn't do that. Also, the Hopper and Joyce like shipping, I have no problem with, whatever, it's fine. But we can't have Hopper be this entitled and then have Joyce not recognize. Like, it flashed back 2 or 3 times to the fact that she was sad that Bob died, but I feel like it could have been way more than that, because a lot of people would have faced way more than that. It's if your boyfriend dies right in front of your eyes to a monster that has possessed your son. I feel like you would need a little while to recoup from that, because that's a lot. And having none of the characters even acknowledge any of the past trauma that they must be facing is a little weird. So I would have liked if that had happened this season, but that didn't happen at all. Joyce and Hopper being a couple, it could have worked if they had each given each other time to grow, but instead Hopper was like, please be girlfriend. I'm angry that you not girlfriend, and also you missed date with me. I'm mad now. And Joyce was like, alright, fine, whatever. Be your boyfriend, girlfriend, I guess. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. But we're gonna go to my third point, which is Karen and Billy's relationship. I said it like that to show my contempt for it. I already don't like characters that have cheating plot lines, because people that cheat are scumbags and I hate them. And I get that some characters, you know, cheating happens in real life, and it's okay to have a character cheat, but then don't act like it's okay in later scenes and try to act sympathetic towards that character. I don't care about this character, they cheated, they're a scumbag, I hate them. Now, cheating was bad enough, but cheating on your husband with a teenager, he's like 18 on the show, so still a teenager, that's literally the same age as your daughter, if not a year younger. It's really gross, and I hate it so much. If you watch season 2, the first time that Billy and Karen interact, made to seem like he's flirting with her, but if you watch him when he goes back to his car, he doesn't care about her, he doesn't care about going to get her number again. He's dead-faced, I just want to get my sister and go home. It's really weird that they decided to pursue this, especially because it makes Karen unsympathetic as a character. And then they try to pull this heartfelt moment between her and Nancy later, and it's just so cheapened by the fact that I hate her as a character now, because she tried to cheat on her husband with someone that's way too young for her. If they had at least gotten her to cheat on, I don't remember her husband's name, on her husband with someone that was her age, I'd be like, okay, still a scumbag, but less of a scumbag. But it feels really extremely gross, especially because it's marketed haha, look at this ship, isn't this fun? And I'm like, it's not fun, it's gross, stop it. I don't like that they're packaged together in merchandise, ew. I don't like that it seems to be okay, because ew, she's married and way older than him. I'm just having a rough, I don't like it, I hate it. So in season 2, like I said, there is no reason for her and him to ever even meet up again. It seems like it comes out of nowhere, 1. 2, it's a cheap plot device to get Billy to be possessed. And 3, the whole thing was extremely cringy. I had to pause it 3 or 4 times when I watched it the first time, because I was just cringing my tits off. And I feel like the entire reason they wrote that scene, other than plot convenience, is because Dacre is such a good actor. For those that don't know, Dacre is the one that plays Billy, and he's great, and he's awesome. Okay, stop being a simp, sorry. I watched behind the scenes footage of that, and like everyone really liked that scene. They're like, haha, this is so fun. So conspiracy theory, they only wrote that in other than plot convenience because he's such a good actor and because it was fun to them. What's fun to you is not fun to me. This is extremely cringy. I'm gonna vomit. I literally got nauseous the first time I watched it. So yeah, and then later in the season when Karen is trying to like connect with Nancy, I'm like, I feel nothing for this character because she's already ruined, because she was really gross. Plus that didn't even do anything for the plot other than get Billy possessed, so there was no reason to even have it in the show. You could have written a million different ways for him to be possessed. If we even had to do that in the first place, I have some opinions on that. I'll get to it later in the video. Okay, I think I'm done ranting about Karen, but ew, Karen, gross. So number 4, Will has nothing to do this season other than be a GPS. He does do a little bit of growing up in that, or they at least try to give him a little bit of an arc in him growing up. And I liked the fact that they included the whole friends won't be friends forever thing, because I kind of struggled with that in high school when all of my friends moved off to different cities, but I like the fact that they included that. However, Will has nothing to do this season. Most of the time, he just kind of hovers in the background and he only becomes plot relevant like halfway through the season when he's used as a GPS to track where Billy is. In fact, a lot of the characters don't have anything to do this season other than be like romance subplots, which is really, I don't care, okay? I get it that they're teenagers, but like there are things in this season that are life or death, and then there's this, so it's like the level of importance, it's like way down here. I don't care about all this teenage garbage angst drama. Literally people are dying. They're being possessed by rat demons and they're dying. So why are we wasting time on this? I get it that they're trying to do character development, but it feels really like dumb when we could still develop characters through other ways of, hey Max, your brother's possessed. Maybe we should get to that first before we're worrying about whether or not we're dating. This seems like a good idea. So I feel, and I've heard that kind of complaint from a couple other people in that no one really cared about the romance. I don't care, shut up. It weighs down the plot with useless garbage. It doesn't connect to anything and it doesn't even matter in the end. Because when Elle like broke up with Mike, in the end they were back together. Who cares? Who gives a crap? Speaking of Mike, why was he such a little turd this season? He was written to be so like, I don't know, just gross and disrespectful, I guess. I really didn't vibe with him talking back to Hopper how he did. And it's weird because he never did that before, and I get that he's like a teenager, so maybe he's on some sort of power trip, but I feel like he would have recognized that, hey, this is a grown-up, and also my girlfriend's dad, so maybe I shouldn't do that. And also, if he's going to be rebellious like that, especially against a character that a lot of people care about, he's very unlikable then. You shouldn't put any scenes in where we might feel sympathy towards him, because I really don't care about Mike past episode 1 after he mouths off to Hopper. So I didn't expect Mike to be like likable after he mouthed off to Hopper. You know, a character that people care about. So, and I'm not trying to imply that nobody likes Mike. I'm sure somebody likes Mike. I didn't care for him this season, is what I'm trying to say. I know that they're teenagers, but I feel like sometimes when you write teenage characters, in order to make them likable, you kind of have to shove some of the angst to the side. Like, Will was angsty this season, but he wasn't unlikable. He just wanted to play D&D, man. That was my 5th point, by the way. I don't know if I pointed it out, that all the romance stuff was weird. And it ate up a lot of plot time that could have better connected all the different plot threads, which weren't really connected at all. I feel like all the romances were a huge waste of time, and I didn't care for them, and Will had nothing to do other than be angsty and want to play D&D and be sad that his friends are kind of growing apart. I like the growing apart aspect. The rest of it, I was like, he's just standing back there. He's got nothing to do. He's just GPS. He's only plot relevant in that way. Number 6, the 80s nostalgia was a little much this season. I know that I praised it earlier for it being like the vaporwave 80s aesthetic that everybody likes, but I feel like there's a difference between that and literally holding up a new Coke and being like, wow, what a great product this is, wow. I get they have product placement in the show, like they have Eggos, but Eggos served somewhat of a plot relevance. To do this new Coke thing, they literally, everything screeched to a halt so that we could do this stupid bit about new Coke. And the whole montage, the Material Girl montage, was dumb, and I didn't like it. I get that they wanted to show Elle and Max being like closer, but I feel like there was other ways that they could have done that incorporated both of their interests in a way that wasn't so like in your face. Look at the 80s stuff, remember the 80s? This is just cartoony. Season 1 and Season 2 didn't get as deep into the 80s nostalgia as this one did. It felt really ham-fisted and forced, and I get it, like in the 80s malls were huge, so of course you're gonna have some sort of product placement, but I feel like using it as a backdrop is different than bringing it to the surface, especially if you're screeching everything to a halt in order to drop in a now non-relevant product like New Coke. So we know about the New Coke thing and how everyone hated it. It doesn't matter. So that's all I got to say about that. Number 7, the weird Terminator guy whose name I don't know or care about. The weird "capitalism is great actually" speech from Erica. We're gonna do these one at a time. Again, I know that it was set in the 80s, but there's a difference between ripping off something from the 80s and taking inspiration. The previous 2 seasons were a good idea of taking inspiration from the 80s. They weren't overbearing. They didn't directly like steal characters from other franchises. This weird Terminator guy is bad on like 2 counts, in that he's a cheap ripoff of a much better property than this season, and he also is supposed to be threatening, but at the same time he's like a cartoon character. It really takes some of the tension out of the room when the person that's supposed to be killing you is literally referred to as the Terminator. So, you know, it's like a weird caricature of a bad guy, and he's not threatening because you're like, oh, it's that guy from that movie. So it automatically cheapens your It automatically cheapens your villain by a lot by even having him like reference to another product from the 80s. So I didn't like Terminator Guy. I didn't like Terminator Guy also because he shot Alexei, and that sweet cinnamon roll did not deserve that. If I had to keep anything about the stupid Russian subplot, I would keep Alexei. That's it, that's the only part. I also don't like how Hopper treated Alexei either. Not because he was mean to him. I mean, he's a Russian spy and Hopper's like an American, so of course he's gonna rough house with him a little bit. I didn't like the confidence of, he's gonna come back, because like, I was like, how do you know that, Hopper? It felt like Hopper was OP this season. I thought you were done with complaining about Hopper. I am now, sorry. I just remembered a thing that I hated, sorry. Erica was another new character this season. Another one. There's a lot of new characters this season. I like Scoop Troop, but Erica was not written like a realistic little kid. Her "capitalism is great actually" speech was really like ham-fisted and just like gross, especially because a lot of people, not to get political or anything, but a lot of people are not the greatest, like, yeah, corporations are amazing, I love those guys right now. Because like 400 people in the world control like $3.5 trillion of wealth, and that could easily wipe out malaria, but they choose not to do that, even though it would use like literally 3% of their wealth. So, I guillotine the rich. Name me one child from the 80s or even modern day that even knows what capitalism is. Most kids like don't know about that, and I get it. If they wanted to write her character as smart, they could have written it tons of different ways. I like the idea of her being a nerd, especially because in the 80s nerds were looked down upon. So having a character as sassy and as sweet and as cute as Erica would have been nice, but instead they made her sassy, like way too sassy, to the point where she was like bad-mouthing literal like Russian guards and stuff. It felt extremely unrealistic, and this is supposed to be a show that's grounded in reality despite its supernatural and like paranormal. aspects of the show, especially in season 1 and 2. It was still extremely grounded in reality. But this season is like a cartoon parody of everything. You could easily call this a bad fan fiction or like a parody of Stranger Things, and it would work. I don't know, a lot of people thought that Erica was annoying, and I'll admit her overt and extreme sassiness towards characters that should not have been sassed, you know, like Russian guards and also the capitalism speech. And it went on for so long too, it dragged out for too long, and her sassiness was a little overbearing. But overall, I thought that she could be a good character if only they stuck to like the nerd aspect of her and not the you are really into politics for some reason kid. Number 8, Mayor Klein and the stupid Russian tie-ins to Hawkins itself. I guess I'm okay with stupid characters and like stupid mayors, but a stupid mayor to like this degree is just unbelievable for me. I can't believe that Mayor Klein, even like if he was bribed a lot, he would just be totally cool with Russians underneath the mall. Like not think to look into the fact that they're digging this huge underground bunker for him. Oh look, it's that pen. I forgot that I put it up there. Mayor Klein as a character was just not interesting, and I didn't care about him, and then he died. He was just an excuse as to how they could try to get the Russians into the mall. It's still extremely dumb and it doesn't work at all, as reasoned by other things that I've stated in this video. So it feels like he's written to be too stupid, and I hate characters that are written to be too stupid, and this is definitely one of those cases. So overall, the entire like third of the plot of the show in season 3 ideally would not be there if it was written better, I guess. If I wrote it, I don't know. Number 9. I just held up 7 fingers like it was number 9. Number 9, mishandling Nancy and Jonathan's plot. I feel like Nancy and Jonathan didn't get a whole lot of screen time this season, which is fine if you want to focus on the group, but then why did you split them off from the group and also give them their own little plot? I don't mind the rat plot, it's fine. I don't mind the newspaper plot, that's fine. But I feel like there could have been more tension between their characters, because especially in previous seasons, Nancy has been written as the like suburban rich kid girl, and Jonathan is, you know, the not so rich kid. With Jonathan losing his job at the news agency would have been like a particularly hard blow for him, especially because his family already doesn't have a ton of money. And then Nancy acting like it's no big deal because, oh, we can get a job somewhere else, those guys are jerks anyway. It's like, Nancy, honey, do you not realize that I could have really used that money? I wish that they had played more on that, just kind of like having that one argument and then rolling from it, and then like, okay, cool, we didn't really do anything or whatever. And a lot of the characters were not developed on, sometimes not at all, and sometimes in bad ways, and sometimes like barely. And I feel like Nancy and Jonathan just could have gotten more screen time, especially because they were two characters that were like fighting for their life from these big gross goo monsters the whole season. And when you don't give them a whole lot of plot relevancy other than that, it's kind of like, this is a really long fight scene. Yep, it's still going. And it feels like you could have picked different characters for that were given more screen time this season, or you could have just given them more screen time, I'm just saying. And finally, the thing that's probably going to take up the most of this video, and which I'm going to rant about for quite a while, so strap in. Number 10, Billy's arc. I just say that really slow because I really, really hate it. Billy was such a mishandled character this season, and it's especially weird because he's like the main antagonist of this season. I feel like they could have done so much more and made him so much stronger of a character. They tried, I guess, by showing like memories, like Elle looking through his memories or whatever. This character is not fully redeemed, so a lot of people are like, eh. I'm already not a huge fan of a redemption by death because I feel like it's not a redemption, they just died. And having him do his redemption by death felt really cheap to me, and it was also weird that Max took so long to even realize that he was possessed. Like, you see him earlier in the season. Max, you know that there are these demon things and they can possess people. I keep calling them demons because it's shorter than saying demodog. Just shut up. You know that there are demogorgons and that they can possess people, and there's the Mind Flayer because you dealt with all that stuff last season, and also Will was possessed, so you knew about that. So why are you not at least a little bit suspicious that maybe your brother is acting a little bit too weird to be just a coincidence? It felt like I was just screaming internally in my brain. I was like, hey, something's up. How do you not realize this? Like, Elle is realizing something and she doesn't even live with him. You live with him full time. You should know when something is weird. You see him like show up to a nice family dinner. I feel like your brother's not the type to date, let alone show up to nice family dinners and stuff like this. And this is really okay to you. And then the group, I feel like there could have been more conflict in the group surrounding whether or not they should help Billy. Spoilers, they really should have. In previous seasons, if he hadn't had Steve there to literally beat the snot out of, he could have taken that out on Lucas, and he nearly killed Steve. I'm pretty sure that if Max hadn't stopped him, he would have killed Steve. So I feel like there could have been a little bit of the group being like, I don't know about this, and Max could be like, hey, he's my brother. Another thing, they imply that Max and Billy are on at least okay terms, if not good terms now, but they show literally nothing of it. The little we see of Max being sort of concerned about Billy is very few and far between. And then at the very end of the season, there's this big emotional scene, and I'm like, this wasn't earned, because they had literally no scenes together. And the very few scenes they had together, that wasn't even really Billy. That was Billy possessed by the Mind Flayer. The one scene that I really liked that a lot of people say was really, really good is the sauna scene, because it's the one scene ever that we get of Billy being vulnerable and open to Max and like expressing his remorse about things. And then I was like, yes, more of this please. And then they're like, here's him saying I'm sorry as he lay dying. Is this good? And I'm like, it's not. I hate it. And then I want to talk about Billy just as a character, because his arc was definitely not realized. He could have been fully redeemed in the eyes of so many other people, because as it is now, his redemption arc is just him sacrificing himself for Elle. So it's kind of a half redemption, but not really. I really like this character because I feel like he's layered in such a nice way, you know? In previous seasons, he's a jerk, but there's like reasons for him to be a jerk. It doesn't excuse his jerkness, but it adds like, hey, maybe we could redeem this guy. And I was like, nice, I like that. I loves me a good redemption arc. And then they didn't do it, because in previous seasons, like I said, he would have beaten the snot out of Lucas if he didn't almost kill Steve. He was protective, but in a toxic way towards Max. He treated her more like property instead of, hey, I don't want you to get hurt by people like this, because I know people like this. Which also, mild tangent, it's weird that he singled out Lucas, the only black character. That's not a cute look, but I feel like we could have redeemed that still, and then they didn't do it. I feel like the group could have grown stronger together and then redeemed Billy, and then he would have the chance to at least apologize to the group, because they like saved his life, you know. But near the very end of the season, it's like no one even makes an attempt to try to separate the Mind Flayer from Billy. They're just like, kill the Mind Flayer or whatever. If Billy dies, it's fine. And I get that he's not part of the group, but if you're gonna play up this big emotional scene between Max and Billy at the end, you would think that they would care at least a little bit. I'm gonna put on a tinfoil hat for a second and discuss Billy's character a little bit more in depth. And the weird, like, no homo aspect to the show. So me and a lot of other people, especially my Discord server, all believe that Billy was/is gay. There's lots of subtle like reasons. He calls a lot of the calls the girls in the school cows, and he like doesn't care about the girls in the school. The only real character he interacts with in any way that could be conceived of as flirting is Steve. He seems to present in overly masculine ways, which seem to imply that he is at least trying to be no homo himself about it. And this one is like the least compelling evidence, but I also thought I'd throw it in. The ear that he has pierced in the show is the gay ear. Plus, watch that shower scene between him and Steve and tell me that isn't gay. That is the gayest thing I've ever seen in my life. That is so gay. You know, Neil calls him the F word. Not that one, the other one, the homophobic one. Yeah, extra upsetting because it would have been like a crumb of representation in the show, and I get it, the 80s were rough towards the gays, so it wouldn't have been like an explicit coming out scene, probably not along the lines of Robin's coming out scene. It would have been nice to have another character. It would have been nice for Billy and Steve to interact at all this season. It would have been nice to explore more of that side of his character or something. I don't know. I'm sad that he's dead and we will never experience these things. And it was such a waste of a great character, and it was such a waste of such a talented actor. And I mean, the scenes that he did have were very good, and I'm so proud of him. Good job, baby. I wish that they had done so much more with his character because it's such a waste. He could have easily been one of the strongest characters on the show, but then they killed him. And that's the end of my list. I think I've ranted for quite long enough. My voice feels like it keeps going out, and I have to edit all of this. It's gonna be like 30 minutes long. I'm sorry if all of the points in this weren't as concise as I could have made it. I'm not usually one to criticize media in this way because most of the stuff I watch, I don't get into it into the level that I got into this show. And I didn't connect with the character as much as I connected to this character that they wasted. Maybe this could be some form of coping mechanism. I don't know. Will I watch season 4? Yes. Whether or not I'll like it is entirely different. I don't really care about anything in season 4 now because it's most definitely going to be Hopper centric. And like I said, Hopper as a character was ruined for me when he was so entitled the season before. I cry every time I watch the end of season 3, though, I'll tell you that. Is this my only video on Stranger Things? No. Because I would like to rewrite season 3 of Stranger Things and show what I would do, because I think it's one thing to like criticize a show, but it's another thing entirely to like put your money where your mouth is and be like, here's where you went wrong, here's what you should have done. I'm not a TV writer, but I'll give it a shot, man. Don't forget to like, favorite, and sub if you want. I make new videos every other Saturday, and yeah, whenever I finish my rewrite of season 3, I'll post it. In the meantime, I may also post other Stranger Things videos, like season 4 of Stranger Things. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and bye.